the only way out of here is to try one of these doors.
One of them leads to the castle at the center of the labyrinth, and the other one leads to... certain death. Ooh.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of RT Essentials. I'm Maud Garrett. You hear a lot about movie magic, but usually that's a figurative description of what goes on to make a movie happen. But in some cases, like a few that we're talking about today, movies can be filled with actual magic. And when done right, a good magic element can elevate any storyline. And there are also plenty of films about magicians, ones that use their own form of magic or illusions to achieve something, either good or bad. So allow me to reach into my bottomless black top hat and pull out something good. It's not a rabbit, but it is our list of the greatest movies about magic. The Prestige.
Forget this thing. I can recognize an obsession. No good will come of it.
What hasn't good come of your obsessions?
At first, but I followed them too long. I am their slave. And one day they will choose to destroy me.
For my first movie, I'll be talking about the 2006 mystery drama, The Prestige. After a tragic accident during an illusion gone horribly wrong, two 19th century magicians, Alfred Borden, played by Christian Bale, and Rupert Angier, played by Hugh Jackman, find themselves pitted against each other in a bitter battle for supremacy. But as their feud continues to escalate and they sacrifice everything they have to create the ultimate illusion and try to destroy the other man, terrible consequences start to happen. The Prestige is based on the 1995 novel of the same name by Christopher Priest and was directed by Christopher Nolan, who also wrote it with his brother Jonathan. And of course, the film reunited Christopher Nolan with Christian Bale after doing Batman Begins the previous year. And speaking of superheroes, along with Bale and Hugh Jackman, this film's supporting cast has plenty of comic book movie experience, with Scarlett Johansson, Michael Caine, Andy Serkis and Rebecca Hall. Plus, Piper Perabo rounds out the cast along with the one and only David Bowie as Nikola Tesla. Bringing some of the magic to the screen and to the actors was Ricky Jay, who played a magician in the film and coached Bale and Jackman behind the scenes. He'll pop up again on this list, as will the year 2006, which produced two other films that also feature magic and magicians.
You will find what you are looking for in this box. Ali has written you a thorough set of instructions. I add only one suggestion on using the machine. Destroy it. Drop it to the bottom of the deepest ocean. Such a thing will bring you only misery.
And clearly magic was a hot topic that year, because this film grossed $109 million worldwide against a production budget of $40 million, and received Oscar nominations for Best Art Direction and Best Cinematography. And critics were into it as well, like Empire Magazine's Dan Jolin, who called the movie odd, but brilliantly so. And the overall consensus from critics is that The Prestige is full of twists and turns, and is a dazzling period piece that never stops challenging the audience. Now you see me.
What is seeing? You're looking, but what you're really doing is filtering, interpreting, searching for meaning. My job? To take that most precious of gifts you give me, your attention, and use it against you.
If you blink, you might miss the next movie on this list, which is 2013's Now You See Me. This heist thriller was directed by Louis Leterrier, known for the first two Transporter films and also 2008's Incredible Hulk. It's about a team of talented illusionists called the Four Horsemen, led by charismatic magician named Atlas, played by Jesse Eisenberg. How Jesse Eisenberg can be called charismatic is beyond me. The group specialises in pulling off bank heists during their performances and funneling the money to their audience members. Seems like a no-brainer operation. But an FBI agent, played by Mark Ruffalo, and an Interpol detective, played by Melanie Laurent, are officially on the case and looking to put a stop to the group before their next big caper. So they turn to a famous debunker, played by Morgan Freeman, for help. The stellar cast also includes Woody Harrelson, Isla Fisher, Dave Franco, and Michael Caine in another movie about magic. Plus, Conan O'Brien makes a cameo as himself, which is always a good time. But things could have looked very different, with names like Philip Seymour Hoffman, Jim Carrey, Hugh Grant, Sacha Baron Cohen, and Colin Firth all considered for lead roles.
The real magic is taking four strong solo acts and making them all work together. And that's exactly what you did. So welcome. Welcome to the Eye.
Now You See Me performed well at the box office, raking in nearly $352 million worldwide and winning the People's Choice Awards for Favourite Thriller Movie for good measure. And that was enough reason to bring on a sequel, Now You See Me 2, which was released in 2016 and is coming in rotten on the tomato meter, just like its predecessor. Despite the financial success, the film received mixed reviews, mostly criticising the ending. The Dissolve's Keith Phipps, who said, "Audiences go to magic shows to get fooled, but that doesn't mean they want to leave feeling cheated." And the critics' consensus overall is that Now You See Me's thinly sketched characters and scattered plot rely on sleight of hand from the director to distract audiences. Hocus Pocus.
Oh, look. Another glorious morning. Makes me sick. Sisters!
Like most great things in life, the next movie comes from the 90s in the form of 1992's Hocus Pocus. This film was directed by Kenny Ortega, who was coming off his feature film debut the year before with Newsies. It's about a teenager, played by Omri Katz, who moves to Salem, Massachusetts, and ends up accidentally freeing a coven of evil witches while exploring an abandoned house with his sister and their friend. The witches, played by Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy, are trying to become immortal. So the kids, with the help of a magical cat, have to try and stop them by stealing their book of spells. It took a while for this version of Hocus Pocus to come into focus. At one point early in development, the film's working title was Disney's Halloween House, and even though it sounds kind of kitschy, it was much darker. And Bette Midler's role of Winifred Sanderson was originally written for Cloris Leachman, while Jennifer Lopez reportedly auditioned for the role of Sarah Sanderson, which eventually went to Sarah Jessica Parker. Plus, Leonardo DiCaprio was originally offered the lead role of Max, but declined it to pursue What's Eating Gilbert Grape instead.
I smell children. Sick 'em. It's a little girl. 7, maybe 8 and a half. Oh, let us play with her. Come, little children, I'll take thee away. In. Come out, my dear. We will not harm thee. We love children.
The film hit theaters the same day as Free Willy in 1993 and was not considered a critical or commercial success upon its release, reportedly losing Disney around $16 million during its initial theatrical run. But the film has been embraced more over the years, largely thanks to the annual airings on cable TV every October and a yearly spike in home video sales. The critics' consensus for Hocus Pocus is that it's harmlessly hokey yet never much more than mediocre, a muddled family-friendly effort that fails to live up to the talents of its impressive cast. The Craft. Let's keep it in the 90s for the next great movie about magic on this list, 1996's The Craft. This supernatural teen film was directed by Andrew Fleming, known mostly for directing TV shows like Arrested Development and Grosse Pointe. It follows Sarah, played by Robin Tunney, who transfers to a Los Angeles high school and finds that her telekinetic gift helps her fit right in with the group of wannabe witches, played by Neve Campbell, Rachel True, and Fairuza Balk. But as their troubled backgrounds combine with their blossoming powers, things start to get dangerous, especially after a minor spell causes a fellow student to lose her hair, and the girls grow even more power-hungry. As you might imagine, plenty of other actresses, like nearly 100, screen-tested for the 4 main roles in this movie, including stars like Angelina Jolie, Scarlett Johansson, and Alicia Silverstone. But the cast they ended up with put forth a surprising hit, pulling in nearly $56 million at the box office against a budget of $15 million, and gaining a cult following in the years since.
I bind you, Nancy, from doing harm. Harm against other people and harm against yourself. I bind you.
Plus, Robin Tunney and Fairuza Balk won the MTV Movie Award for Best Fight. What more do you need? Well, some people would say a sequel, and sure enough, The Craft Legacy came in October of 2020 with a whole new cast, but coming in rotten on the tomato meter, much like the first film. And while this movie can hang its hat on the fact that it served as an inspiration for Katy Perry's 2013 song, Dark Horse, the consensus from critics is that The Craft's campy magic often overrides the feminist message at its story's core, but its appealing cast and postmodern perspective still cast a sporadic spell. The Illusionist.
In the name of His Imperial Majesty and the city of Vienna, I hereby arrest Edward Abramovich, also known as Eisenheim the Illusionist, on charges of disturbing public order, charlatanism, and threats against the Empire. Get back, get back! Time up! Stop it,
Don't be fooled, this next movie is as it appears on this list, and it's the 2006 mystery drama, The Illusionist. This one was written and directed by Neil Berger, known for directing films like Limitless and Divergent, and stars Edward Norton, Paul Giamatti, and Jessica Biel. It's based loosely on Stephen Milhouse's 1990s short story, Eisenheim, The Illusionist, and follows Eisenheim, played by Norton, a magician in turn-of-the-century Vienna who reunites with his childhood love Sophie, played by Jessica Biel. So Eisenheim uses his considerable powers to go up against Crown Prince Leopold, played by Rufus Sewell, for the hand of Sophie. But he is warned by a police inspector, played by Paul Giamatti, that Eisenheim is heading down a very dangerous path. Edward Norton did many of his own magic tricks for the movie, courtesy of British magician James Friedman and American magician and actor Ricky Jay. I told you he'd pop up again. And Jessica Biel actually replaced Liv Tyler, who dropped out just as filming was about to begin.
Everything you have seen is an illusion. It's a trick.
And as one of those big magic-themed movies released in 2006, this one pulled in nearly $90 million worldwide with another $35 million in DVD sales, and it earned an Oscar nomination for Best Cinematography. The critics were feeling this certified fresh flick too, like The Guardian's Peter Bradshaw, who said, "The film shows that reality is more mystifying than illusion." And with an overall critics' consensus saying, "The Illusionist is an engrossing, well-crafted story of mystery, magic and intrigue that is certain to enchant, if not hypnotize, audiences." Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Next up on this list of the greatest movies about magic is 2004's Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This third installment in the Harry Potter film series finds Daniel Radcliffe's Harry in his third year at Hogwarts. And things start off badly when he learns that the deranged killer, Sirius Black, played by Gary Oldman, has escaped from Azkaban prison and is coming after Harry. Meanwhile, there is a rift in the trio, which also includes Emma Watson's Hermione and Rupert Grint's Ron, and a mysterious new teacher shows up to teach Harry how to defend himself. After directing the first two films, Chris Columbus stepped down and Alfonso Cuarón took over. And along with shooting the entire film with wide lenses, which makes everything appear in focus, Cuarón changed the design of Harry's wand because he thought the original version looked like something you would buy at IKEA. And almost every character in the film received a total wardrobe overhaul, as this marks the first Harry Potter film to feature Hogwarts students wearing normal clothes. This is also the first film in the series to feature Michael Gambon as Dumbledore, who replaced the late Richard Harris after his death. Interestingly, Ian McKellen turned down the role of Dumbledore due to his portrayal of Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings, for fear of not being able to live up to both. I can totally relate.
You foul, loathsome, evil little cockroach!
Hermione, no! He's not worth it.
Security was tight with this movie, considering Warner Brothers provided theaters with night vision goggles to make sure that nobody was illegally filming the movie. They wanted people to wait until it came out on DVD, or in this case, VHS, since it's the last of the Harry Potter films to be released in that format. If you don't know what it is, ask your parents about it, kids. Fans and critics loved this certified fresh installment into the series, with the critics' consensus saying that, under the assured direction of Alfonso Cuarón, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban triumphantly strikes a delicate balance between technical wizardry and complex storytelling. The incredible Burt Wonderstone.
See what I'm doing now? Look at it.
Look at it!
Now look at this! In cursive.
Is a terrible trick to do for children. What if they try and copy you?
I'll sue them. It's my trick.
It's time to add some incredible into this list of the greatest movies about magic, and we'll do it with the 2013 comedy, The Incredible Burt Wonderstone. Former actor turned director Don Scardino was at the helm of this film about superstar magician Burt Wonderstone, played by Steve Carell, and his partner Anton Marbleton, played by Steve Buscemi. Together they have dominated the Las Vegas Strip for years and made millions of dollars, but their friendship has become strained over time. And when the popularity of street magician Steve Gray, played by Jim Carrey, begins to threaten their dominance, the pair must come together to take on the dangerous foe. The movie also features Alan Arkin, Olivia Wilde, Jay Moore, Brad Garrett, Gillian Jacobs, and James Gandolfini in his final film appearance during his lifetime. But it's the unique magician characters that drive this one, with the Burt Wonderstone character being based partly on famous duo Siegfried and Roy. And Carrey's Steve Gray was described by Scardino as if David Blaine and Chris Angel had a child. I'll give you a second to imagine that. Sacha Baron Cohen, Matthew Broderick, and Steve Martin were all considered for that role, but Jim Carrey magically appeared instead.
What are you wearing?
My magician's costume, because I am a magician.
The whole point of this is to update our act. You need to go change.
Now this is Vegas, baby. Look at this crowd.
Okay, guys, we're ready for you. You wear that?
Yes.
It's velvet, Bert. You're gonna die.
Behind the scenes, famous magician David Copperfield revealed some very confidential secrets for tricks used in the film. So confidential that everyone involved had to sign secrecy contracts. You do you, David. Sadly, the magic wasn't there when it came to the box office, with Variety calling this one of Hollywood's biggest bombs of 2013, after failing to recoup its $30 million budget. And while critics praised Jim Carrey and Alan Arkin, the plot's inconsistent tone and predictability did this one in. Bill Jebari from New York Magazine said, "The true comeback story in this fictional comeback story doesn't belong to a character named Burt Wonderstone, but to an actor named Jim Carrey." And the overall consensus from critics is that The Incredible Burt Wonderstone serves up some goofy laughs, but given its outrageous conceit, it's surprisingly safe and predictable. Practical magic.
Willem bat, tongue of dog.
Adder's fork and blindworm's sting.
Barbados lime is just the thing.
Fragged sword like a sailor's stubble.
Flip the switch and let the cauldron bubble.
How convenient!
It just wouldn't be practical to leave this next film off our list, so we didn't. It's 1998's Practical Magic. This film is based on author Alice Hoffman's 1995 novel of the same name and stars Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman as Sally and Gillian Owens, who are born into a magical family that carries a curse, which is the men that they fall in love with are doomed to an untimely death. And after Gillian's awful boyfriend dies unexpectedly, the sisters give themselves a crash course in hard magic to try and resurrect him, as a policeman, played by Aidan Quinn, grows ever more suspicious. The film was directed by Griffin Dunn, who is also an actor and went on to appear with Sandra Bullock in Ocean's 8 some 20 years later. And speaking of future roles, Nicole Kidman would go on to play a witch again in 2005's Bewitched. And filming Practical Magic turned out to be quite eventful. It began on an artificial set in California, but producers decided the house was a big part of the story, so a real one was built in the state of Washington and production moved. And while they were there, both the cast and crew claimed they heard supernatural noises while filming the coven scene at the end of the film. Ugh, spooky.
Do you ever put your arms out and spin and spin and spin really, really fast?
She does it all the time.
She does? Well, that's what love is like. Makes your heart race. It turns the world upside down. But if you're not careful, if you don't keep your eyes on something still, you can lose your balance, you know? You can't see what's happening to the people around you.
So it's no wonder that Sandra Bullock said that while filming a scene where her and Nicole Kidman's character are drunk and slinging insults, the actresses actually got drunk. Ooh, I'm sad I missed that party. The film has reached cult classic status, but the critics weren't that into it, with the consensus that practical magic's jarring tonal shifts sinks what little potential its offbeat story may have, though Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock's chemistry makes a strong argument for future collaborations. Stardust.
You're stuck like this till the new king is crowned.
Was that close?
Oh, well, at least you haven't lost your looks.
Oh, please, you're not annoyed about that whole murder thing, are you? I mean, that was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Great deal of good it did you, didn't it, killing me, Secundus? Because now, of course, now you are king of all Stormhold. Oh, sorry, wait, no you're not.
It's time we sprinkle a little bit of this next movie into our list, and I'm talking about 2007's Stardust. Based on Neil Gaiman's 1999 novel of the same name, this fantasy adventure film was directed by Matthew Vaughn, from movies like Kick-Ass and X-Men First Class. And it focuses on a young man named Tristan, played by Charlie Cox, trying to win the heart of his beloved Victoria, played by Sienna Miller. But when Tristan heads into the realm of fairies to retrieve a fallen star for her, he finds a woman named Yvain, played by Claire Danes, instead. And she's in some serious danger with an evil witch and the king's sons, all after her powers. The film's loaded cast also includes folks like Ricky Gervais, Rupert Everett, Peter O'Toole, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Robert De Niro, plus narration by Ian McKellen. Sorry, Sir Ian McKellen. And crazy enough, it could have included either Anne Hathaway, Scarlett Johansson, Sarah Michelle Gellar, or Jessica Alba, all who turned down Claire Danes' eventual role of Yvain.
I'm trying to say, Tristan, is I think I love you. My heart, it feels like my chest can barely contain it. Like it doesn't belong to me anymore. It belongs to you.
Director Vaughn was actually a little disappointed in the marketing of the film, saying it was promoted like it was Lord of the Rings, when it was actually more along the lines of The Princess Bride. And despite a decent showing at the box office, making $137 million on a budget of around $80 million, it wasn't enough to justify a sequel, even though Vaughn had plenty of ideas. The critics' consensus for this certified fresh fantasy is that it's a faithful interpretation that captures the spirit of whimsy, action, and off-kilter humour of Neil Gaiman. Stardust juggles multiple genres and tones to create a fantastical experience. Labyrinth.
I wish.
Is she going to say it?
Say what?
You shut up. Listen, she's going to say the word.
I can bear it no longer. Goblin King, wherever you may be, take this child of mine far away from me.
Oh, that's not it. Quetzalcoatl, that rubbish. It doesn't even start with I wish.
And finally, because I love me some David Bowie, we'll finish things off with 1986's Labyrinth. This musical fantasy film was directed by Jim Henson, with his good friend George Lucas serving as executive producer. It's about a teenage girl named Sarah, played by Jennifer Connelly, who ventures through a wild and crazy maze in an attempt to rescue her baby brother, whom she accidentally wished away to a Goblin King, played by David Bowie. Ugh, teenagers, am I right? Actually, most of the film's main characters are played by puppets from Jim Henson's Creature Shop, aside from Bowie and Connolly. And she had to beat out a huge list of actresses for the part, including Helena Bonham Carter, Jane Krakowski, Sarah Jessica Parker, Marissa Tomei, Laura Dern, and Ali Sheedy. Whoa, talk about a list of who's who. And when it came to the Goblin King, filmmakers were on the hunt for a contemporary musician and considered guys like Sting, Prince, Mick Jagger, and Michael Jackson before Bowie got the call. He ended up recording 5 songs for the movie. And for the sake of this episode, I'll just say that my favourite is Magic Dance. You remind me of the Babe. What a banger.
Generous. What have you done that's generous?
Everything. Everything that you wanted, I have done. You asked that the child be taken. I took him. You cowered before me. I was frightening. I have reordered time I have turned the world upside down, and I have done it all for you. I am exhausted from living up to your expectations. Isn't that generous?
Talks of a sequel to Labyrinth popped up seriously in 2016 in what was described at the time as a spin-off in the same universe. But of course, it still continues to bounce around the development stages to this day. Classic Hollywood. But in the meantime, this fresh cult classic has been a hit with fans and critics through the years, with a lot of love going to Bowie and Henson. Like the AV Club's Tasha Robinson, who said that Bowie's character performance is gloriously iconic. And the critics' consensus overall is that, while it's arguably more interesting on a visual level, Labyrinth provides further proof of director Jim Henson's boundless imagination. Oh, what a fun and magical adventure that was. Thank you for checking out our list of the greatest movies about magic. All you have to do is wave your magic wand around, aka your remote, and you can start watching some of these. Thanks for checking out RT Essentials. I'm Maud Garrett. And because I'm a magician, abracadabra, alakazam, I'm out of here, fam.